because this is where you get to learn about layers, which is a way to organize your drawings, kind of like with an overlay system of what you want to show and what you don't need to show. And notice I do have one of your projects opened up, the bedroom project. So I'm going to be working with this pretty much for the entire lecture. So if you want to open that up and follow along, you can do so, or you can take notes and work on it later. We're not going to actually turn this in, but this is a way for me to show you how layers works so effectively in our drawings. And before we jump into this, I'll give you some time to get this open. I'm going to open up another project, and notice if I hover on it, I have a lot of sheets. That's what all these white things are. These are the actual sheets that we're going to learn about pretty soon, but not today. But if I just open up the project, notice it looks like a mess. And I picked a very small project so it wouldn't look so messy. Believe it or not, some projects can get very, very, very messy because the way that AutoCAD works is you can literally draw floors on top of floors. So imagine that you have a two-story house, okay? And it even has a basement. You can literally draw the walls on top of each other, kind of like showing that, okay, this is where it would occur for the first floor, but I also have a second floor on top of that, and then I also have a basement underneath. So it's a very efficient way to make sure your walls line up, make sure the stairs line up, but then you turn on and off certain layers to show what you want to. Like, I just want to show the first floor. An example, and I'm going to go into detail on this in just a little bit, but an example is, let's say I just wanted to show basically the floor plan. So I would turn on just the floor plan from my layer states, and this is what it would look like compared to if I wanted to show maybe the furniture plan. So this shows all the furniture that they've selected and maybe some of the cabinetry and such for their project. They're remodeling their master bedroom and bath. Or maybe I need to show the actual electrical plan. So this would show the ceiling fan, the switches, the outlets, the connection of the lights. But notice I wouldn't want to show all those at the same time, correct? And if I thaw all the layers, that's showing all of it together once again. So let's go back to the bedroom that you guys have. And if I go up to right here on the ribbon, notice it's labeled layers right here, but layer properties is where we're going to spend a lot of our time. So if I go to layer properties, notice for this project right here, you have 4 layers. Layer 0 is one layer that just comes with AutoCAD. It's the only required layer that you have to have, but it's not the layer that you actually want to do all of your work on. Ironically, if I actually click this layer in the background, I'm sorry, this line in the background, it was for one of the walls. Let's see if I can move this out of the way for just a second. It's marking one of the walls, and it is on layer 0. Not really how you would actually do your project, but that's how this one was drawn. So we're going to change that so it's actually proper. So layer 0 is the only required layer. It's reserved mostly for blocks, and you're going to learn about blocks actually pretty soon, maybe in a couple weeks. But you also have the door layer and the furniture layer and the windows layer. And each layer is basically specific for certain objects within your drawing. Or maybe you also, actually, not maybe, you also would put like your dimensions on a dimension layer or your notes on a note layer. So the doors obviously would go on the door layer. And notice some of the features for each of the layers. One is this, which if I pull this over, it says the status. Right now there's a check mark by doors, which means it's on the door layer right now. All that means is it's the current layer, And if I started drawing, I'll just, whoops, I'll just close this in the background. If I actually started drawing, it would actually be on the door layer. Notice it's a separate color than the walls and the furniture and the windows, but if I click it, it actually tells me it's on the doors layer. Nice. So I'm going to escape. I'm going to actually undo that. I'm going to go back up to layer properties. So that is the status. I'm on the door layer. If I want to switch to a different layer, all I have to do is double click on the status over here, and I'll immediately switch to another layer that I can actually draw on. So I could go to furniture, I could go to windows, I could go back to 0. But believe me, I never draw on 0. I only use that for blocks. On and off, I personally don't mess with. On and off basically means, is it going to show or not show? But it actually has some extra characteristics that I don't use and nobody actually uses anymore. It's kind of funny. It used to be something that was used a lot. Now what's used, and it was still used back then, is the freeze and thaw. So if I freeze any of these layers, it makes it invisible, although the stuff is still there, and I can't select it, I can't use it. Example, I'm going to move this. I need to kind of get this out of the way, don't I? I am going to freeze the furniture layer. Notice all I have to do is click the sun, and it kind of puts a little snowflake, shows that it's frozen. Now my windows are still showing, my walls are still showing, and if I move this, my door is still showing, but all the furniture is gone. It's frozen. It's still there. I can't select it. I can't do a crossing through it or anything. It's there. It's just frozen. So if I thaw it by clicking that again, it then reappears. Whoops, I did not want to actually do that. Put that back in the center. So that's turning, kind of freezing and thawing it. Lock and unlock, that's another feature that we really don't use anymore. But if I was to lock, say, the furniture layer, notice how it just kind of fades it out. It still shows, so I can see it. So if you'd rather see it instead of like freezing it, notice I can actually select it, but I can't edit it. So that's another thing that we can use. I don't very often. Plot or not plot. This is something that we would use if we don't want a line to actually plot. This is great for like your construction lines. If you want to use them and not delete them, not erase them, you could actually put them on a no plot layer. And the way that we do that is we just click that, and notice it has like this little red mark at the bottom, which shows that it will not plot. It'll still show, it's still usable, you can still do anything you want with it, but it just won't plot when you actually want to print your paper or print your project. Another thing that's important is the color. It used to be in the past that you would set your color according to the line weight that you wanted, which happens to be right here. If I pull this out a little bit more, it says line weight. I still actually use that for my plotting. So I will set certain colors to certain line weights. Like my walls, they need to be a thicker line weight than maybe the bed. So thicker line weight means a thicker line. It pops out more. So you want the walls to actually be a thicker line weight. And notice over here, they didn't set any of the line weights for any of the layers. So that would be something that we might want to change unless the color was basically saying what line weight. And then the line type is cool because you can change what you want the line to look like. So if I wanted a dashed line instead of a continuous line, this is where I would change that. And I'll show you that in just a moment. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to actually change some of this information, like the doors. Right now, if you look, the door is a magenta. It's this color. I'm going to click this to show you how the colors work. There are 3 different tabs, but most often you will only have to use this first tab, which is the default. It's the index color. And these right here in the middle, are the basic colors. Almost nobody uses kind of like these extras, but they're there. They're available. You can use them. I honestly use this one right here, which is 11, and this one right here, which is, whoops, 181. And I also use 190 a lot, only because there's not any purple down here. We have red, which is the color 1, yellow, which is the color 2, green, which is 3, cyan, it's not called turquoise, it's called cyan, is number 4, blue is 5, magenta, you can call it pink, but it is called magenta, is 6, and then 7 is white, which is kind of like the default for layer 0 and what's showing right back here. And then we have like a dark gray and a light gray. These are numbered and they're the ones used most oftenly. So I'm going to change my door layer, which is what I'm kind of working with right now, to the color green. And then when I hit OK, notice it changes from magenta to green. Okay, so that's pretty awesome. The furniture layer is on like a layer 30. I won't change that, and I won't change the windows for now, but I do need to make a new layer. We don't have a wall layer, or what I would actually call walls, because all the walls would want to be on its own layer. So I can turn them off or on, freeze them, thaw them, and work with them when I want to do walls. So I'm going to go up here. It's kind of like it has this little blasting yellow mark next to it, but it's where you make a new layer. So when I click here, it actually creates a layer 1. Now we wouldn't want our layers to be just layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, continuous like that. So the first thing you would need to do is actually change the name. So you can either double click, notice it's highlighted, it is ready for you to change the name, or you can do it later, but I'm going to change this to actually be, whoops, I'm going to do it in all caps, walls. So I'm going to type walls, I'm going to hit enter, and now that layer is called walls. I'm going to go across here and I'm going to set some parameters for it. Yes, I want it to plot. I don't need to mess with this right now, but I do need to change the color. We're going to change the color of the walls to be magenta. And then I'm going to hit OK. Nothing changed in the background because I don't have anything on that layer yet. I do want it to be continuous. Let's see what it would look like to change the doors to actually be a different line type. So I'm going to hit this, and notice the only line type I have loaded, see it says loaded line types, is the continuous line. It's the default, it's the one that's always there. But if I want to load a different one, like dashed, I would go to load down here at the bottom. And notice if I scroll through all these, I have a bunch I can pick from. But dashed happens to be one of the ones I can select. And notice they have regular dashed, they have dash 2, which is kind of a little bit smaller, and then dash times 2, which is a bigger dashed line. I personally like to work with the smaller ones. It seems to show up a little bit better. So I'm going to load this one, and I'm going to say OK. And notice it's now loaded, it's not selected. So it still says at the top, select line type. So I was doing this for my doors again. So I'm going to select dashed, and I'm going to hit OK. Unfortunately, because this is a block, it's not going to show. But let me show you what it would look like. I'm going to make that current by double selecting it. I'm going to X out of this. You can't just hit escape. You have to actually put the close. Okay. But if I draw a line, even if I draw it right smack in the middle of this bedroom, notice it didn't even change anything. Okay. I'm going to check it. It does say line type by layer. and it is saying that it's a dashed, but it's not showing. Let's see if we can make it show. I'm going to type in LT, and notice what comes up. Line type and LT scale. The scale may need to be adjusted to actually show that line. So I'm going to hit that. I could type in LTS or I could type in LT scale, but I'm going to select that, and it says it's a scale factor of 1. Let's see if 2 will make any difference. Now it's showing a little bit better. It's still very, 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 very small. So maybe that was the wrong line type that I wanted to select, because the LT scale doubled doesn't show it very well either. So that might be something that I would want to change. Right now I'm not going to. In fact, I'm going to erase this line. Okay. But I am going to go back to the layer properties, and let's put some line weights to these lines. Okay. For the walls, I'm going to hit under line weight for wall. See, I'm lining it up kind of like a grid system. And notice the line weights now come up over on this side. Usually the default is 0.1, okay, they have 0.13, to about 0.6. Now I do have on some of my drawings a 0.7, but walls usually needs to be a thick line. So I'm actually going to select a 0.6 for this. And if I hit OK, it actually will not show. This is still on layer 0. Okay, so how about we actually change our walls to now be on the wall layer? Now, the easiest way, actually the second easiest way, would be, well, you actually have 3 ways. Notice I just clicked something. I could go back to layer properties. I could freeze everything but the walls. Okay, so I could do it there. I could go up here to the drop down and say I want to freeze the doors, which, notice this, because it's the current layer, it won't let you freeze it. So one thing that you need to do before you freeze is to make sure you're not on the layer you want to freeze. Okay, so it will not let me freeze that one. So the first thing I'd want to do is maybe get on layer 0, because I'm not going to use it. So like I said, this is a drop down. If I select 0, it actually will make that the current layer. So I don't always have to go to layer properties, but I do have to do layer properties if I want to set a new one, or maybe I want to, well, I'm going to show you this when we get into viewports, do this, or if I want to delete a layer. So this is where all of the information is, but notice they do give you drop downs to do a little bit quicker on some things. So I could go and I could say, okay, I want to freeze the doors, I want to freeze the furniture, I don't want to freeze the walls, but I also want to freeze the windows. Okay, now my drawing is actually just those walls. Now they are on layer 0. They are not on layer walls. Even if I freeze layer walls, nothing happens because these are all on 0. But I'm going to show you, I'm going to actually undo this because there's another way that you can actually do what I just showed you. You can also go to this button right here. Whoops, not that one. This one right here, the freeze button. If I select this and then select any object that is on that layer, it will freeze that layer. So there's basically 3 ways to freeze. This I think is the easiest if I know what I want to freeze. So I want to freeze the furniture, the windows, and the doors, right? So I can go to this little quick freeze kind of thing. I select that, and then with my cursor, I just click on the things that I want to freeze. I want to freeze the furniture, I want to freeze the windows, and I want to freeze the doors. It didn't give me any errors because I'm not on any of those layers, but then I just hit enter, or on my mouse I can right click and it'll get me out. So now I'm back to where I was before. All these are on layer 0 still. See, if I click, it says layer 0, but I want to change them all to be walls. Several ways to do that. One is I can select them all. Okay. And then with my quick properties right here, I can actually go to layer, and notice when I click this right here, it does give me the option to give it drop down. So I do the drop down and I can select any of these layers to be on. Now if it's frozen, notice what happens. Did you hear that? It actually gave me an error. It's saying it's been moved to a frozen layer. It does move it to it, but it's frozen. So it's basically not going to be seen. So now I can't see anything in my drawing. So I'm going to undo that because I can't see those walls. But I can go to this drop down right here. And I can also say, whoops, forgot to actually select them. I'm going to select all these. And instead of using my quick properties, because maybe you don't have that on, I could go to this top drop down and say I want them all on layer walls. So I select that and then I hit escape. And now all of these walls are actually on the walls layer, which is very helpful for if I want to kind of like organize my drawings. Okay, so let's actually turn back on everything. Okay, you could do it the long way, which is going to layer properties and basically clicking these three little frozen things. Click, 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 and then click here, and they're all showing. I'm going to undo this. Or I could go to the drop down. Notice there's lots of ways. And I can click the little snowflakes this way. Click, 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 and they're all done. Okay, hit escape, and I'm going to undo that one. But the fastest way to basically thaw everything on your drawing is to go to the thaw button. Notice it says thaw all layers. So if I click that, it's immediate. Everything will show. Now, it's not helpful if you only want to thaw some and leave others frozen. But if you want to thaw everything, that's the fastest way. And like I said, the freeze will let you select whatever you select to be frozen. Okay, so let's create some more layers and show you some different options. One is, let's say, you know what, this is one design that the client is interested in for their furniture. They have this bedroom. They want you to actually put in the bed they selected and some nightstands and this desk and chair, but they're not sure of the placement. They want to see before it's brought in maybe some ideas. What we can do is we can go to our copy command, and I can copy by crossing through these things, the bed and the two nightstands. And then I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to select my base point to be basically the middle of this wall right here. And then I'm going to copy it to the middle of this wall. Okay, doesn't exactly work right? It probably should be rotated. So I'm going to go to rotate, and I'm going to select the bed and the two nightstands. And I'm going to say that my rotation base point is still on the midpoint of this wall. And I'm going to pull it straight up. I could turn my ortho on, or I could just snap to this point on the wall, which means it would be straight up and down. Either way, to make sure that you're straight up and down, it is best to actually put on ortho and pull your line up and click. So now I have two options. They can actually have the bed kind of like in between the windows, or they can have it on this wall. You wouldn't want both maybe to show at the same time. So what I can do is I can go up to layer properties, and I can create a new layer. So I'm going to go to new layer, and I'm going to call this one, oops, I'm going to keep it all caps, furniture 2, kind of like furniture option 2. Okay, I'm going to select a different color than that 30 because I want it to show differently. So I'm going to select yellow. Okay, I'm going to hit OK. I forgot to change some of these line weights over here, and I forgot to show you how they would actually show. So let's do that before we finish what we were doing. I'm going to change the line weight for this one to actually be 0.3. And I'm going to change the doors to actually be 0.35. Well, now let's keep it at 0.3. Changing my mind. Let's change the windows, though. Notice I'm just hitting the line weight over here to 0.35 and OK. They're still not going to show. The way that you actually can show them is to bring up something on your status bar. It is not there right now. So I do have to go to the end where it says customization and click this. And then I need to go, oh, I do have it on. This is where it would be. Normally that would be turned off. I actually did have it on. So I'm going to check this. And that will now bring up the line weight, which happens to be right here. It says show or hide line weight. It is off, but if I click it on, notice what happens. My lines got thicker for the line weight that I selected for those layers. Now, I personally don't like to work with my line weights on because I feel like it's very distracting. But if it helps you, then you are more than welcome to do so. This is where you would do it. I'm going to turn those back off. Like I said, that would kind of drive me crazy. And I'm going to show you this over here in a second. So for now, I'm actually going to turn it off. But I will show you that in just a moment. So I have this bed and the two nightstands over here as an option. And let's say that they actually wouldn't want the desk this close to the bed for this option. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to copy and select the desk and the chair. And I'm going to select this as the base point because I'm not going to get exact. I'm going to turn off my ortho. But for my other option, they would want to sit basically kind of in the corner but looking at the door. Okay, it's getting kind of crowded, right? I'm going to make sure this and this and this bed and this nightstand and this nightstand are on the other layer that I created. So I'm going to change it here and just say, you know what, with the drop down, I want it to be on furniture 2 layer. And then I can hit escape. So it'll unselect it. So by just freezing and thawing, I can show the 2 different options for my client. I can go to the freeze right here and I can say, okay, here's one option for you. This is having the bed here and the desk and chair here. Hit thaw all layers. And then another option is if I select this to be frozen and say, here is your bed and here is your desk and chair over in this position. So they get to see 2 different versions of a design that you have just by freezing and thawing a couple of layers. I'm going to show you now some of these other things so that we can use these when we're actually drawing. Okay, so I'm going to go over just a couple things as a review. One is if your client needs to know the area of this bedroom, maybe without the bed or with the bed. Remember, I think this was actually on quick to begin with. But remember, you can do the quick dimensions, and if you kind of hover in the middle like this so it doesn't, bump into the bed or bump into the desk or anything like that, you can show that it's 18.5 feet by 15 feet 5. Okay. But I also could go up here to measure and go down to area. Now I can't just select these walls and have it give me the area because they're all not connected. So I do have to use the points. Okay, so I could click this point and I could click this point and I could click this point. It's already starting to shade it, and this point, and hit enter. And it says 285.2 for the square footage. If I wanted to subtract the bed from that, I would have to do it differently. I have to go to area, and I'd actually have to say A for add area, which is one of these options down here, and hit enter. And now I have to do the same thing. I still have to add the area of what I want to select first. So I'm going to select all 4 of these points. And notice I'm selecting on the inside. So this is kind of like their livable space. And I'm going to hit enter. And then I need to subtract the other area. So right now it's saying it's still 285 square. It's saying it right at my cursor as well. 285, but I need to subtract the bed. This is just for their option. So I hit S for subtract, or I could go down here and select it and hit enter. And then I need to say what I want to subtract. Well, I want to subtract this bed. So I'm going to click here and here and here and here. It turns a different color. And when I hit enter, then it tells me that basically my square footage would be 251.875 to be exact. So just as a review for area and quick distance. So I'm going to hit escape, but they want actually a bath and maybe a closet attached to this bedroom. One way that you can quickly get to the right layer that you want, because believe it or not, see my selection of layers, I only have basically 6 right now if you count 0, but sometimes you literally could have up to 100 or more different layers. On some of my big projects, that's exactly what I have. So I want to quickly go to my wall layer. Yes, I could select it here by just clicking right here. But notice there's a button right here above the layers called Make Current. If I click that, whatever I select that's on the layer I want to use will be my next current layer. So if I want to draw on the wall layer, I would click a wall. And notice up here, it tells me I'm on the walls layer. Okay? So then from there, I could draw a bathroom over here. Now, I'm going to kind of go through some of those modify commands that we went over last week to quickly show some different ways that you could do that. One is, if I want the bathroom to be 5 feet wide, I could go to offset. And I could say 5 feet and enter. And then I could select this wall right here, pull it to this side and click. And I've got kind of my starting wall. Then I could hit enter and enter again to restart that command and put in an offset distance of 6 and enter. And then select this line and select on this side. And notice now I have basically a wall that's 5 feet away from this other wall. Now, I could either use fillet, I could draw the walls. I'm going to actually use fillet. When I use fillet right here and select this wall and this wall, it will combine them. And then I hit enter and select this wall and this wall. Notice it just repeated the command. I could even select this wall and this wall and hit enter again and select this wall and this wall. Now, yeah, I do have some cleaning up to do right here, but basically I've kind of just drawn some more walls that I need. So then I would go to trim, and then it does depend on what part of the wall I click, but I want to, get rid of this little line, get rid of this little line, clean up that edge a little bit, and go up here and do the same thing. Click this part of the line and this part of the line, and then hit enter, because it'll keep going as long as I keep selecting lines. So now I've just cleaned up part of that drawing. And then I want to actually create like a bathroom down here and maybe a closet up here. So I'm going to go to line, and I'm going to let it snap basically to the center of that wall, and then draw perpendicular to that wall and hit enter. And then I could do the same thing. I could go to offset, and let's say this is a skinnier wall than these walls. I could say 4 for my offset and enter, and then select here, and maybe I want to go on this side. And then I would hit enter. Now I've got a wall separating the two. I would have to clean up these little edges by going to trim again, and then just trim these little pieces out so that it cleans up the walls. So I've got 2 rooms going, but I need to actually put some stuff in here, right? Let's say they want maybe an option of a barn door compared to a regular door like this. So I need to create a door opening. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to line I'm still on the walls layer, but I'm going to hover at this corner and with my tracking on, hit 4 because I want it to be 4 inches away for my opening. I'm going to let it snap to the perpendicular and hit enter.